section 3 today.
And that'll be about communism. Communism is a political economy and social theory developed by Karl Marx in the mid-1880s, and his theory is stated in the Communist Manifesto. Almost 1/3 of the world's people once lived under the communism. Since the collapse of the social union, it is a guiding economy principle in only a handful of countries such as Russia, Ukraine, and Afghanistan.
Well, actually, Russia does not say it's communist, nor does Ukraine. In fact, Ukraine couldn't wait to get away from Russia. And Afghanistan, until we went in after 9/11, was ruled by the Taliban. It was a radical Islamic group. So I just kind of need to correct you on those three right there.
Karl Marx's theory. Communism is often called a collectivist ideology, which calls for the collective of or state ownership of land and other productive property. Karl and Friedrich Engels first set out its basic concepts in the Communist Manifesto in 1848. Marx worked on four closely related concepts as theories of history: the labor theory of value, the nature of state, and the dictatorship of the proletariat.
Characteristics of communist economies. Marx believes that the revolution would come first in industrialized countries with large working class population, in particular France, Germany, Great Britain, and the United States. Ironically, the revolution occurred first in Russia, then a backwards, mainly agricultural nation in 1917, and later in lately agricultural nations in Asia.
Soviet Union. Lenin and his followers took power in Russia in 1917 and began immediately to build a communist state. After a difficult transition of the Soviet Union became a one-party state with communists in control of the country's social, political and economic institution by the time of Lenin's death in 1920.
And interestingly enough, and I know this can't be proven, but there is a lot of rumor and innuendo that actually Stalin was by degrees poisoning Vladimir Lenin so that he could take over control.
The 5-year plans. The 5-year plan demanded collectivization of agricultural and higher production of chemicals, petroleum, and steel. Then later 5-year plans also emphasized heavy industry, and the Soviet Union achieved rapid, if uneven, industrialization.
Social policies. The Soviet Union gave its citizens free education, medical care, and even youth summer camps. It was far from a classless society. However, the spur production, economic incentives, cars, and vacation homes went to party officials. Bureaucrats and factory managers.
Have any of you in here read the book Animal Farm?
Yeah. Watch the movie.
What? Okay, watch the movie. Yeah. You guys realize that book was written as a direct parody of what happened in the Soviet Union? The idea that, remember, the farmer in Animal Farm was considered to be the czar. He was the ruler of Russia. And remember when the animals revolted and they kicked the farmer out and they said, we're all going to share equally now, right? And you had the cows and the pigs and the dogs. Well, ends up the dogs ended up being like the enforcers for the pigs, which is exactly what ended up happening. All these Soviets, like the Stalins and the Lenins, they said, oh, we're all going to be equal. But in truth, what did they end up doing? They ended up moving into the house of the farmer. They no longer were in the barn. Everyone else had to stay in the barn, but they moved into the house. And to secure their position, they had the dogs, enforce that. And it was a parody of exactly what happened there. And what the saying that's probably most famous out of that book is it goes, we're all equal. Some are just more equal than others.
Gorbachev, how do you say his name?
Gorbachev.
Gorbachev's reforms. Gorbachev became Soviet leader in 1985. He inherited an economic system that had changed little since the Stalin years. Stalin years, economic growth and productivity had declined sharply.
In other words, what is the outcome of a command economy or a centrally planned economy? How well does it work? Let me rephrase the question. How does a centrally planned or command economy work compared to a capitalist economy?
Well, communism just revolves around the government, and that's they're the main focus of that type of group, and socialist it's more about the people, and the government is right there, but more people are involved in the socialist than it is in communism.
Miguel, you had a comment?
Isn't a command economy, isn't that when they tell you what to grow, what to share, and they pretty much tell you what it is that they want you to sell, and it's not always very successful as it would be in the socialist economy.
As it what?
As on the other one, was it? On the socialist economy or on the other one that they just said? On a free market economy.
A free market, yeah, exactly.
There we go.
Right, so eventually what happens with these command economies is they implode. They suck so bad that they just can't account for all the variables. In fact, China was about to implode too, and they realized this. And so the guys in control of China said, we know we're going the same way the Soviet Union went unless we do something. So they allowed market reforms to come in. That's why China is a really strange creature. It's still very much controlled by a dictatorship, if you will. A few guys control it, but they've allowed mass market reforms there so that their economy is just taken off. So it's weird. It's like they have a strong economy, but they're ruled by a totalitarian government.
Transition to a free market. Russia's transition to a free market system and its moves towards democracy will closely link the economic plans that Russian President Boris Yeltsin put in place in 1991 and 1992 called for radical changes, including the lifting of price controls and the privatization of farms and factories.
In other words, that was a really difficult road to try and go from a centrally planned economy to one where it actually introduced free market. The Russians had never had anything like that. Today, we can see that it didn't work too well. Pretty much what happened is the former KGB, which is the secret police, and the Russian mafia pretty much took over everything. And now that's why Putin is able to rule Russia with an iron fist. Is because either it's the Russian mafia or the KGB, former KGB, that control everything. It's sad. It's really sad. Poor Russians have never had a legitimate, long-running democratic government.
China. Mao Zedong was the founder of all of the People's Republic of China. It was in Marxist. Mao departed from Marxist theory that a workers' revolt would lead to communism. He also believed that the peasantry would be the key to a communist revolution in China.
The Great Leap Forward. The Great Leap Forward was a drastic attempt to modernize China quickly. All elements of free enterprise, such as rarely market, were eliminated. Collective firms were brought together into a large unit in the communism. The Great Leap Forward failed and did not successfully modify China.
Deng Xiaoping.
Deng Xiaoping reforms came to power in 1977 and made great changes in the economy. Deng's program of the four modernization aimed to improve agricultural industry, science and technology, and defense. Deng wants socialism with the Chinese characteristics.
Deng came in, no one dared question Mao Zedong. Literally, he was a god to the Chinese people. He instilled either so much fear or so much, people were so just in awe of who he was, that even though he was totally messing the country over, no one would do anything about it. It wasn't until Deng came in that he felt some freedom to start moving away from the crazy Great Leap Forward that Mao Zedong had implemented.
Other communist nations. Several other countries, mainly in Asia, have centrally planned economies. Most are bringing in some free market elements. Other communist economies have not lasted. The Soviet satellites of Eastern Europe disappeared in the upheavals of 1988 through 1990.
Well, we have a question. Can anybody describe communism in their own words? You know?
Communism revolves strictly around the government, and they pretty much tell people what to do. And mainly everyone gets like the same income together. No one really makes a greater income than other people, no matter what it is that you work. So pretty much everyone is treated very equally, pretty much the same as each other.
How does that relate to the opener you guys wrote about?
You're asking me or?
Any?
Oh. Well, I mean, it related to the opening because that's pretty much what it relates to the communist government, how nobody makes a bigger amount than, like let's say a farmer does not make more than a doctor in a sort of way. Like there's no hierarchy, in other words. Pretty much everyone makes the same. And people that work hard make the same as people that work, that barely that barely even care to work. So pretty much everyone is treated the same. Like you said, everyone is equal.
How do you guys feel about that?
I could agree with him.
You what?
I would agree with him.
Would agree with him what?
What he was saying.
Oh yeah, I mean, how do you feel about that system? Yeah, that whole.
Well, I mean,
Do you think we shouldn't discriminate in our pay? Do you think everyone should receive the same?
I mean, it all depends, but I think, I mean, if another person is working more, like, you know, harder, and it takes, like, time to get to where they're at, I think they should get paid more.
Well, that's pretty discriminatory, isn't it?
Well, I mean, if they put in the work for it, I would think.
So you're okay with economic discrimination?
I mean, if you put it that way, yeah.
You are okay with that?
I mean, I feel like that's the way it is.
Okay. Anyone else have a point of view on that?
Would you disagree on that?
Yeah, throw it out there. What do the rest of your peers think about that?
You disagree, Leo?
No, I agree with Adrian. I think there should be discrimination because some people have better professions than others that make better money, and some take a lot harder work to achieve and stuff. So I think that there should be a hierarchy and how much money people make and stuff. So, I mean, I think it is okay to discriminate by what people do and stuff. So yeah.
Okay, anyone else? Yuriko, you okay with economic discrimination?
Yeah, because they work for what they want and they need. Yeah. Why would other people get the same amount of money if they like work less than what I do? Why would you do?
Maddie, what do you think?
I think economic discrimination is right, because why should I make $20 an hour filing papers, but Delilah's a doctor and she's on call for 16 hours a day and she's a brain surgeon, but she's making the same as me.
Well, that's all we have.